To order. Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember Orleans, it's time to come forward for the meeting. I'm not going to start with the pledge. I'm going to have Ron Bradley to come forward and lead us to say the prayer for us. We're going to. If you'll come forward, we'll start this meeting. Okay. I'd like to invite Reverend Ron Bradley to come forward and say a prayer for us all. Would you like us sitting or standing?
They can sit.
All right, sir.
This mic?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you that we live in such a wonderful place. Thank you for our city council and our mayor. Thank you for the hard work that they do, the time that they give. And Lord, we pray that you will give them your perspective on all the situations that they face and all the decisions they have to make. For we are a polarized country and it's difficult to make those decisions. But give them your perspective and give them your wisdom. And bless this meeting tonight, we pray. In the name of our Lord. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to invite Beth Case to come forward and lead us in the pledge. Is Beth Case here? Yes, come forward. You stand wherever you want. If we all stand and face the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to then come to introduce the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts. Casey, okay. And they'll be introduced by Carson Davis. If the Boy Scouts would come forward. Pack. Well, they're Boy Scouts to be. They're all going to become Boy Scouts, I can tell. Good boys. Carson Davis. Yes. If you'd come to the microphone and tell us which pack you're from.
We're from Pack 1486.
And your name is?
Carson Davis.
Are you related to anybody here?
No.
No.
Except for him.
Except for your father. Well, don't deny him. You know, it looks like he's a good man. And if the other boys would come forward and introduce themselves.
I'm Philip Pawlowski.
Yes, sir. And
I'm Will Beebe. I'm Andrew Young. I'm Graham Barnhill. I'm Michael Baxter.
All right, Michael Baxter, before you leave, you're the last one, so you get to tell us where does your pack meet?
At Sweet Apple.
At Sweet Apple. It's good to have you here tonight. I expect you to come back when you're Boy Scouts. You have to come to a local government to get your citizenship in the Community Merit Badge, and I hope to see you all back then. All right. I understand from David Davidson they'd like their picture with the council. So if the council will come down, let's get our picture taken with these Boy Scouts. Y'all wanted your picture taken with the council? Yes. Come forward. I'd like the scout, the Cub Pack Masters, or whatever the term is.
That means you're dead.
The scout leaders, but I don't know what it is.
Carson.
Okay, have you step forward once so council can get behind you since you're taller than you. Okay, whichever way. We can do this way. This way. This way? They're fine.
They're fine. They're fine. Shake your hand. Shake everybody's hand. Good to have you. You've got Boy Scouts here on council. Good job. Councilmember Price, the son, is an Eagle Scout. Thanks for having me.
It's hard work.
And I was an Eagle Scout.
It's hard work, but it's hard. So don't give up, okay? Stick with it.
I have a proclamation. Next, I have a proclamation to read on behalf of the First Baptist Church of Roswell, and I have some First Baptist Church members here. If you'd come forward. Before I read this, I want to thank the First Baptist Church for their contribution to the city of Roswell. I had the opportunity to read my great-grandfather's speech from 1905 from Cabot, Arkansas, and he said the two things that made his town successful are the churches and the schools. Well, not the government, but the churches and the schools. And I agree with him. When you've got a town with good churches and good schools, you've got the foundation for a great community, and the First Baptist Church is a part of that foundation for the city of Roswell. So we appreciate 140 years of service to the community. Whereas in 1872, a log cabin schoolhouse located near the Roswell Mill, 16 members from Willio Baptist Church and 6 members from Lebanon Baptist Church joined together to commence First Baptist Church Roswell. And whereas in 1927, the First Baptist Church Roswell moved to its present location on Main Street, known to all of us today as Mimosa Boulevard, under the leadership of Pastor Ralph M. Donahue. And whereas First Baptist Church Roswell has strengthened its congregation and stands proud with a current membership of 2,320. And whereas the First Baptist Church Roswell has been actively involved in the community, supporting local and worldwide charities and making a difference in the lives of Roswell's residents. And whereas First Baptist Church Roswell continues to enrich the lives of their congregation through the support and leadership of Pastor Dr. Ron Bradley, and will prove to continue their mission and history for generations to come. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of Roswell, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2012 as the 140th anniversary of the First Baptist Church of Roswell, and encourage all of our citizens to congratulate the congregation on this momentous anniversary. And let's have it your hand for the First Baptist Church. Pastor Bradley, anything you'd like to add to that? If you'll come to the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would say
you can raise it up after those Boy Scouts left.
I would say also that good government goes along with good churches and good schools. So we appreciate that. And this is our history committee that's done a great job. And I'm glad you pointed out I'm not the founding pastor. So thank you so much. And we love being a part of Roswell, and we will continue to support our government as well. And thank you so much for your recognition.
Thank you. One more hand for Pastor Bradley and the First Baptist Church. Thank you for coming. Oh, if you would like to, we have a copy of the proclamation for you, Pastor Bradley. And next, I'd like to ask Beth Casey to come back again. We want to recognize her as the winner of the 2012 Small Business Person of the Year award from the Greater North Fulton Chamber of Commerce. And do I have someone to do a presentation on that? Well, let me just introduce Beth Casey by saying that she is a Roswell business person, a Roswell taxpayer. She was selected among a great many of qualified candidates from the North Fulton Chamber. They're giving me the summary here. I know that her first business was there on Canton Street, and she moved there to to Mimosa Boulevard, which was formerly the main street in Roswell, to a beautiful home there, and it's a great place to park if you ever need but you're not supposed to park there. But when Randy was there, that's where I always used to park when I went to the square. She helps seniors, which I am fast becoming, and I appreciate that. And with that, I want to recognize her to tell more about the company that she founded, Caravita Home Care. Beth, you're up.
Well, I just want to thank you. Part of having my business here in Roswell for the last 12 years has been because this is a city I've brought my children up in, and I strongly believe in caring for seniors and promoting Roswell as a city for intergenerational care. We've served about 16,000 seniors in the area. We go into their homes, take care of them for anywhere from 2 to 24 hours a day. But I'm most proud of what we do with families. We're just opening up a Caregiver Institute where we can train both certified nursing assistants and families in all varieties of caregiving techniques so you can keep your family member at home as long as you would want to have them. I welcome any of you to come visit our house. We have lots of equipment and technology that you can use in your home and try out and see how it works, and we're just real proud to be part of Roswell and to be able to have our caregivers out in the community every day taking care of seniors and putting families first. So thank you.
Let's have a hand for Caravita. I'd like to invite Roger Wise to come forward. Roger is our liaison. Roger, if you'll come to the microphone. He is our liaison with the University of Phoenix. And he and the University of Phoenix brought a great opportunity here to the city of Roswell to their employees, which is becoming a model for other cities in Georgia. And Roger, I want you to tell the citizens here what the City of Roswell and the University of Phoenix are partnering on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. About a year ago, we got with the police department, and I had received requests. Some of our officers had heard of the University of Phoenix, what they call articulation program, whereby they'll come in and take a police officer, take all of the training they've had in military, post, whatever, and they will articulate that to college credit towards a degree. That allows our officers to move forward. It also gives us a certain degree of pride. Many of our officers, when they get to senior officer status, if they do not have a college transcript in the state of Georgia, they're not promoted to senior officer status, so that allowed it to take place. You've got a new, if you would please, you got a new human resource person in your city, and I want to thank you for that individual. I've discussed it with many of you. He is a true professional. So he got with Mr. Lamar Grant from the University of Phoenix and said, why can't we expand this partnership? Why can't we expand this education agreement to cover all city employees? Give them an opportunity to move forward. Give them an opportunity to better themselves through education. And lo and behold, ask and you shall receive. They did it. This is the first city to do so. I'm getting calls from many of my friends in other cities now saying, hey, why are you doing just Roswell? I said, Roswell did it first, and let's get it in place, then we'll give you a shot at it. So this evening we have with us individuals from the University of Phoenix. We've got our human resource manager for the city, and we're here to announce this and say congratulations, Roswell, on being first, and thank you for caring about your people, because education is workforce development.
Roger, I want to thank you and Roach for bringing us together, and the University of Phoenix. Let's have a hand for University of Phoenix. Roger Wise. Thank you. The letter. Oh, I have a letter which was just, I'd like to read the letter. What'd that do with my letter? And this is to Lamar Grant, the manager for national events. They're all here. Yes. Let's come on, council. Come on. We got to get our picture taken with these folks. Let's come down as I'm reading. Council. I'll finish reading this and I'll join you. Dear Mr. Grant, I would like to extend my appreciation to you for your dedication to our employees in establishing the educational partnership between the University of Phoenix and the City of Roswell. This partnership will allow our employees an opportunity to better themselves through education and personal growth. If at any time I can be of service to you or the University of Phoenix, please do not hesitate to call. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. And let me join you.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. 1, 2. Okay, hold on.
Thank you, sir. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Council Morland has reminded me to take a picture with Beth Casey. Get that or you're still here. Come back up.
The light's better.
It's the fourth Tuesday, isn't it?
This way, this way, this way.
No, we're just now figuring.
You're in the center here. You're in the center. There you go. There we go. Thank you again for taking care of seniors and being a great employer and a great taxpayer in the city of Austin.
Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations again on being a small business person here. That's a great honor.
Well, I guess you can purpose.
And nobody gets
And I'd like to have a proclamation for Hoyt Jordan for 40 years of service to the city of Roswell. Hoyt, are you here? Hoyt is the one at the water services. Hoyt, I'm going to first have Stu Mooring introduce Hoyt and tell you some of the more interesting things about this gentleman. Hoyt, come on forward. This is your, moment. And if you'll bring your wife forward too. You can take pictures.
Yeah, we can do that later.
So we need somebody to take pictures for you. Julie, if you'll take pictures.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a bittersweet occasion as we honor Hoyt on his retirement after 40 years with the city of Roswell. He's probably a well-known face around town. Actually, that's not true because he has worked the night shift most of the time that he has been at the water plant. But I can tell you that he has been a savior to me when I first came and we needed to get some budgets prepared and satisfy regulations of the state and federal government. Hoyt is an expert on those things. His division was the first budget that always came in on time, and since that time we have brought in our water operations manager, Mike Leonard, who is now Hoyt's supervisor. Mike has worked with water plant operators around the country, around the world, and he has high praise for Hoyt, and I'd just like to have Mike share a comment or two about the great things that Hoyt has meant for our operation, and also to wish him the best in his retirement.
Mayor and Council, Hoyt is one of those kind of individuals that you just would love to have 100 of. I mean, he worked the 11 to 7 shift. We used to call him, I think we did it his 40th recognition, a little vampire, because I never saw Hoyt in the daylight, and finally I did. But Hoyt was also one of those kind of individuals that anything you ask of him, he would provide to you. When I first came to the city 6 years ago, Hoyt didn't know me, but he took me sort of under his wing. He led me through a lot of the progress, the history of the water plant, and I am just so thankful of him. But, like Stu said, it's sort of bittersweet. Hoyt promised me that he was going to retire at the same time I did. Now, that could mean one of two things. Either you got 2 retirements or 1 retirement. But no, Hoyt, I'm just overwhelmed at how you took me in and what you've meant to the city of Roswell. Anybody that works in the industry for 40 years, as Hoyt did, in his service to the city of Roswell, is just a pleasure. And his wife, Sherry, Hoyt had gone through some medical stuff. He beat it, and he's continuing to beat it, and I'm proud of that. because of a lot of things in life that were thrown at us. We don't know what it would be, but he is trying to move forward. And I also want to, like Stu said, Hoyt actually plays in 5 bands. We were going to ask him to play tonight, but if you want to come hear some of his music, I've enlisted Sherry, and we're going to have a retirement reception for him from 10 to 12 on Friday. I would employ each one of you to come by and wish him well and hear some of that great music. Thank you.
Hoyt, thank you for coming here at 10 to 12 in the daytime, I presume, rather than 10 to 12 at night. We appreciate that. Hoyt is a great role model and example for a Roswell employee. I think 40 years on the job is the definition of dependability. And it shows us Roswell operates 24/7, and there are people who are looking after this city when we're asleep, making sure that there is water there when we wake up, and making sure this runs smoothly. So Hoyt, on behalf of the citizens of Roswell, we want to thank you. And I have a proclamation to read on your behalf. Whereas Hoyt Jordan has been employed by the City of Roswell for over 40 years at the Cecil Wood Water Treatment Plant. During that time, Hoyt has served as Senior Water Plant Operator and State Federal Regulations Compliance Officer. And I want to compliment you on that. I recognize that we've received the highest award in the state for many years running because of compliance. And whereas Hoyt Jordan has managed all facets of financial and administrative duties, including budget development and cost tracking for the Cecil Wood Treatment Plant, Hoyt was a great teacher of the next generation of water plant operators and has extended his valuable knowledge and expertise to his many colleagues. And whereas Hoyt Jordan has always been dedicated to his responsibilities 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and has a long and distinguished career, and has earned the respect of his Roswell colleagues and water professionals. And whereas the City of Roswell would like to thank Hoyt Jordan for his dedicated service to the city. Over the years, he has been instrumental in the successful operations of the water plant and achieving numerous distinguished awards from the Georgia Association of Water Professionals. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, declare Friday, September 28, 2012, as Hoyt Jordan Day, and ask all of the citizens of Roswell and employees to join me in congratulating Hoyt on his retirement and recognize his exemplary service and dedication in the city of Roswell. And if the council would join me, I'd love to get my picture taken with a 40-year employee of the city of Roswell and Mr. Dependability. Let's get our picture taken. One more time.
We're good, thank you. Thank you, Hoyt. Thank you, sir.
All the best to you. Have a blast.
Hoyt, do you want to say anything?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, would you indulge Hoyt to say a few words?
Been waiting 40 years for this.
I'm worried. I don't know what this is going to be.
You make it hard to retire. I want to thank you for this honor. You don't work 40 years anywhere without you work for and with some mighty good people. I was born and raised here in Roswell, and I've seen it grown from a small town, small bedroom community, into a much larger but still a good bedroom community and a good place to live. It's been a great honor to work with many of the people I've been associated with, and once again I'd like to thank you for the honor.
Thank you, sir. This time I would like to recognize the folks who put on the visit from Bragg to Roswell. If they'd come forward, please.
Put this on.
Oh, they did. You're right. Good.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, it's a great night. Tonight we are going to celebrate yet another statewide first for the City of Roswell. This is going to be our final report on Bragg 2012, Bragg, the bike ride across Georgia. As you know, there are many states that have these types of organizations where hundreds, if not thousands, of bicyclists go and take these tours. It started in Iowa with RAGBRAI. That was kind of the granddaddy, and Bragg has been doing this in Georgia for many years. Other states have this, North Carolina, Florida, and it's a very exciting effort every year where hundreds of bicyclists get together and they took a tour. It's a different route every year, and they visit different cities. This year it was a ride of 527 miles through 6 different cities. And the City of Roswell was honored to be chosen as the overnight stay in the middle of June this year. And I have to tell you, it was a dramatic effort. It was a team effort. There was Bike Roswell, a number of the city staff. You had Joe Glover and his Recreation and Parks Department with their Ramblers, who did a magnificent job. Our local business community stepped up, and we've got a small little video presentation and some really amazing facts to present to you tonight. I guess I'll go ahead, Tom, if you want to walk through that.
Well, Bragg only gives 2 awards, and this past summer Roswell won both of them.
Whoa! Congratulations, Roswell.
Other cities have hosted Bragg more often, but I think that we did it very well. This was the first time that Bragg has ever come here. I think there was some hesitation about being in such a large urban area with so much traffic, and the Roswell staff, including the Roswell Police Department, did a great job of managing that traffic. And we only had one fairly serious incident in Roswell, and that was someone who made a stupid mistake, and it was his own fault. So after a year of planning and with a lot of support from the city, we brought 1,100 people to Roswell on June 5th, 6th, and 7th. There were approximately 900 Bragg riders and their non-riding family members and Bragg volunteers, and they all loved Roswell. The wider community turned out to welcome the riders. Special thanks to Bike Roswell members and to the Roswell Ramblers who were on site at the campsite at Roswell High School to welcome everybody in. We want to thank all the volunteers who welcomed Bragg to the campsite, and especially Jerome Huff, who's the Roswell High principal, who caught the Bragg spirit really early on and leaped tall buildings to make Roswell High the campsite. The beauty of the campsite was that it was a short walk to many of the area amenities that cyclists could take advantage of. And it was also accessible to the entire city by the Bragg shuttle. The hotel and Bragg shuttles took cyclists not only to hotels but to Roswell's many attractions: the Chattahoochee Nature Center, the river, the spray ground, Andretti's, Aurora Cineplex, the laundromats, always important for cyclists, and Canton Street. And so in addition to the support that the council gave us, we took in approximately $5,700 in sponsorships: Roswell Bicycles, Andretti's Karting, Ty Lin, Historic Roswell Merchants Association, Roswell City Grill, Your Pie, Lazzaro's, and Taco Mac, to name a few of our contributors. We also took in $2,000 or more in in-kind sponsorship: Chattahoochee Nature Center, Shane's Rib Shack, and Brewster's Ice Cream. We paid out $21,003, and while all figures are not yet final, we expect to end this experience under budget. Bragg really showed off Roswell. We rode all over town. The Bragg riders enjoyed their 2 nights here. Many Bragg riders are from Metro Atlanta and North Georgia, and really from all over the country. Many of them were unfamiliar with Roswell, so they were introduced to Roswell for the first time on their bicycles. And you know what? We continue to see these Bragg friends when we have dinner on Canton Street, because they're coming back and having dinner again because they discovered the joys of Roswell. So another thanks to the City of Roswell, the Planning Committee, and the volunteers. We're so very proud of our city, the Planning Committee, and the welcome that Roswell gave to Bragg, which was really made possible by the Mayor and the Roswell City Council. With your help, we were competent, efficient, and welcoming from the time the first rider arrived until the last rider left. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could we get a picture with the mayor and the council and the award that we
Absolutely.
got?
The council will join the bicycle riders. Where do you want us this time? This is a big crowd. Hold up the signs.
These were the Burma shaped
All right, now
signs.
do a turnaround so everybody behind you can see the signs. These were the signs that... These were among the many signs that were on the road as the cyclists came into town, welcoming the town. We also had the police welcoming us and friendly, as opposed to the Milton police, who were not as friendly. And it was a great event. And we look forward to them coming out. So if the council will join us, where do you want us?
Just right down here, I guess, right here. Okay. Tom, you hold this.
I know we have to either switch signs or switch places. We didn't look together to that.
All right, y'all.
I've got to give this to somebody.
You need to give, Mayor. Mayor, you need to get up there to get.
I need to give this to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Great event. Oh, this is ours? Yeah. Yes, the bicycle friendly community. There you go. Best over in
Thanks for all your hard work.
Oh, that's your charge. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I'll put it up. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Orleans. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll hear from Liaison to the Environmental Public Works Department, Councilman Ken Eichelhart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Mr. Moore is going to come forward so we can all take a picture. Maybe not. Okay. We do want to talk about budget amendment to approve this for additional capital expenditures for stormwater utility, the amount of $150,000, and Mr. Moore will tell us about those elements.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As we discussed at the Public Works and Public Safety Committee meeting, there are additional funds that are available in the Stormwater Utility Fund, and we have asked for allocation of some of those funds. The Finance Department has requested that we make that adjustment as part of the mid-year budget adjustment, which will come in November. However, there was one item of the list of capital projects that we request your consideration of tonight for a budget amendment, and that is the River Run Detention Pond. This is a pond that's on private property, but it has come to be the responsibility of the city, and it's our hope and interest to get this work done before the winter season, when it will be much more problematic to work in the environment. And so our request is for a budget amendment of $150,000. This is from undesignated funds in the Stormwater Utility Fund. No general fund money will be required, and we request your approval for that budget amendment so the project can proceed.
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Moran, would you explain how this became the responsibility of the city since it's on private property?
Yes, sir. When the subdivision was developed, the statement that was typically there's a statement on the plat when it is approved that stipulates that facilities are not stormwater facilities are not the responsibility of the city, but that streets and sidewalks and such are dedicated to the city. For some reason, the statement that was on this particular subdivision plat designated that would become, at the time, it became the responsibility of the county, because when it was a subdivision, it was approved in Fulton County. When it was annexed, it became the responsibility of the city.
So this was a plat that was approved by Fulton County, and the city annexed the property?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve budget amendment.
Motion for approval by Councilman Eichelhardt. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Orlins. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item is the approval of amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 7, Land Development and Environmental Protection, Article 7.2, Post-Development Stormwater Management. And I think Mr. Wolf is going to tell us about that. But just real quick, just want to thank him and other members of the staff, not only in this department, but community development and others who've been working on this. And we've put together something I think is going to be a great benefit for both the city and developers, a true win-win for helping them at the early stage of the process to do things that will get our goals met, but also save them money. And that's the quick one. We'll let Mark get in the details.
That was a really good summary, but Mark Wolf and Danelle Alloway, our water resources engineer, have been instrumental in developing this change, and I will let Mark describe it for you.
Okay, thank you. Before you use the first reading of a proposed amendment to the Post-Development Stormwater Management Ordinance, the intention of the amendments is to facilitate the use of low-impact development methods, that's LID methods, which essentially means integrating stormwater management into landscaping and site layout to keep the rain close to where it falls through infiltration, evaporation, storage. I've got a couple slides that can show what essentially the two significant changes are. And that's difficult to read. So essentially, in the newly created category of 1,000 to 5,000 square feet of land disturbance, we are, and this is all for non-residential properties, the only requirement is to provide for an amount of water quality treatment using on-site LIDs, or low-impact development methods. These are rain gardens, these are pervious pavement, that type of methods. And then in larger or new redevelopments, the only change is that the developer has the opportunity to show with a detailed analysis that downstream flooding does not occur or is not expected to occur with the new development. An example site layout. This is an example of a potential redevelopment with a 2,000 square foot building addition. Okay. There we go. So this is just an example. The pink box would be the proposed addition to the site, and the stormwater volume that can be for water quality could be treated with a rain garden, which would be downstream of the site, or just another example would be...
For the citizens in the audience and the Boy Scouts, would you explain what a rain garden is?
Sure.
Probably not self-explanatory.
Thank you. It is. It's built in a low spot for where stormwater can collect, and it contains vegetation that grows well in very wet conditions, and there's lots of different types of flowers and plants that like wet feet, what they call, with their roots in very wet conditions. And so if you can build what they call a rain garden in a location where the water collects naturally, you can plant these types of flowers and plants, and that helps filter out the pollution in the water.
So it's a little mini wetland.
That's perfect. That's what I should have said. So there's lots of different ways to accomplish the water quality requirements as part of the amendments that we're making. And I'm happy to answer any questions that...
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember Price.
So is that meant to offset like square foot to square foot, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. It takes into account the stormwater runoff from the new or replaced impervious area, but it's not if you put 2,000 square feet of impervious area, you're not making a 2,000 square foot rain garden or pervious pavers. There's some engineering involved that I have to have to know. Okay, so you said about a 2,000 square foot addition would equate to about a 200 square foot rain garden.
So is there some leeway and flexibility in working with the person who's redeveloping that area?
Yes, our staff would meet with any developer coming in with a land disturbance permit. Initially, we'd meet with them right up front and make sure they know what the requirements are, what their options are for these LID methods, and we'd be working with them throughout the process.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Davidson, if you'd read the ordinance for the first time.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 7, Land Development and Environmental Protection, Article 7.2, Post-Development Stormwater Management of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances. Whereas the ordinance amendments will encourage LID techniques to integrate stormwater management with development layout and planning while addressing large lot and small lot redevelopment in order to allow additional site-specific requirements and to address water quality using LID techniques for new development and redevelopment. Now therefore, to accomplish the foregoing, the Mayor and Council, pursuant to their authority, adopt the following ordinance. Chapter 7 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Article 7.2, Post-Development Stormwater Management, is amended by adding thereto and deleting sections as incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the first reading of the ordinance.
We have a motion for approval.
Move to approve the first reading.
Motion by Councilman Eichelhardt. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll call upon Liaison to the Community Development Department, Councilmember Nancy Diamond.
Thank you, sir. This is for approval of an amendment to Chapter 18.2.1, Obstruction of Street or Right-of-Way of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances. This will be the second reading, and Ms. Alice Wakefield's coming to tell us about it.
Thank you. As was mentioned, this is the second reading of section chapter 18.2.1, and it's basically an attempt to allow for some encroachments in the right-of-way with the approval of an encroachment permit. When this matter was before this body on September the 12th, the issue was raised as to the irrigation systems that are sometimes there's a desire to locate those in the planting strip. What we have done has been to alter that section that we're amending to say unless permitted as required in section 18.1.2. Previously we had said temporary in nature, and I have discussed this with the director of transportation. He is okay with this amendment. With that said, we would ask that this amendment be approved.
We have a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Mr. Davidson, if you'd read it first.
Thank you. This is an ordinance of the City of Roswell, Georgia to amend Section 18.2.1 of Chapter 18, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places. Now therefore be it ordained by the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, to adopt the following ordinance. Chapter 18, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places is amended by amending Section 18.2.1, Obstruction of Street Right-of-Way, to read as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference. And if approved, this will be the second reading.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Move to approve second reading.
Motion by Councilmember Diamond for approval. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Vote. Yes. I will call upon Councilmember Price.
There were several things that we talked about as this was coming through, and one was damage to streets from dumpsters. And are we covered under this, that with the permitting, that would allow for any compensation for damage to the streets?
Yes, ma'am. That would be part of the encroachment permit that the individual would receive from the Department of Transportation.
And I believe the other issue we had talked about was irrigation systems in the, well, that's already in that.
That's covered.
So that's not going to make any difference in obstruction of the street, but there was some issue about irrigation systems in the right-of-way. Did we resolve that? I know we talked about this last time, too.
This amendment would resolve that. This amendment would allow for some irrigation in the right-of-way with the approval of a encroachment permit from transportation.
This is drip irrigation.
Yes,
right. So this covers that?
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hand. Passes unanimously.
Next item is approval of an amendment to Chapter 2.1.5, Fees of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances. This would be the first reading.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, this is the first reading on a request to amend the Code of Ordinance as relate to the fees, and these fees are related to zoning permitting services. As I mentioned at the committee meeting, right now we deal with a set of fees that are located by ordinance in one section of the Code of Ordinances, and then some are approved, like the building codes, by resolution. We find that some of the fees and the way that we calculate the fees are not consistent with standard practice. So what we're asking for tonight is the first reading to delete the fees from that section of the ordinance. We will come back to committee with a resolution setting the fees for buildings, engineering, zoning, and any other related permits. The intent is not to increase fees, and because I am not very good with numbers, I'm working with the Director of Finance to look at those fees, to do an analysis, to make sure that we are not increasing the fees. And with that said, I've asked that this matter be moved, if it's approved for first read, be moved to the September the 24th council meeting, but I'm now asking that it be moved to the October the 22nd meeting. This would allow time to work with the Finance Director to do an analysis on the fees. I can say publicly that one of the things that you will see on the fees is a request to have some application fees. certain sections of the ordinance allows us to collect an application fee, but it's not consistent. So we're trying to make it consistent. We're trying to make the fees transparent, and we're trying to come up with something that's going to be more user-friendly as we move forward with the ERP system.
Mr. Davis, if you'd read the ordinance.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Section 2.1.5, Fees of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell. Now therefore be it ordained, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following ordinance. Chapter 2, Building and Construction, is amended by deleting Chapter 2, Section 2.1.5, Fees, in its entirety, and substituting a new Section 2.1.5 to read as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the first reading.
Do we have a motion to approve the first reading?
Move to approve the first reading. Do we need to...
Motion by Councilmember Diamond.
Do we need to set the second reading yet, or can that be done? Does that need to be part of the motion? Okay.
We have a motion to approve the first reading. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does the council have any questions or comments? Councilmember Price.
I think Councilmember Diamond was about to address that, but the second reading would have to be changed.
We would bring it back of the October the 22nd Mayor and Council meeting. We first would like to bring it with the Transportation Department as part of the admin committee to review the resolution which sets the fees. So it would have to come back to committee first. It wouldn't be the Community Development Committee, but it would be the admin committee.
Okay, so that would come back earlier in October and then vote on it at the end meeting, last meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments by council? Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll call upon liaison of the Transportation Department, Councilmember Betty Price.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only item on our agenda this evening is for the approval of the mayor and/or city administrator to sign the necessary documents for an exchange of properties and to authorize the escrow of funds in the amount of $4,572.23. Mr. Asenbrack and Mr. Strickland.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give you a little bit of brief background on this issue. I think it's kind of important. This involves the project that we have right now, which is the Oxbow realignment. As a vibrant city, we're constantly in the process of improvement. We make these improvements in many ways, and we try to be creative and context-sensitive whenever we make these public improvements. For a city of nearly 100,000 people and 42 square miles, we are unfortunately very underserved by a road network. In order to improve this, we are looking at realigning Oxbow Road to improve our mobility. One strong issue that we have is the fact that on one of our major north-south routes, which is Atlanta Street, right out our back door here, heading south on Route 9, there is no way for a motorist to safely make a simple left turn anywhere here from City Hall at Hill Street all the way down to the river. And so we have a number of issues as far as connectivity that we're trying to address here. As part of doing this, what we try to do when we're doing these improvements is to have no impact or limited or minor impact to the adjacent property owners. And even though your Roswell Department of Transportation is a very clever and creative organization, we took a lot of time to try to see if we could make this impact without any impact to this neighborhood property owner. So let me just point this out. Thank you. So let me just orient you here to this graphic. This is north. This is State Route 9, and this is the current Oxbow Road, which ends here. And then you've got another section of it which is dysfunctionally oriented in another direction. You've got topography, you've got road alignments, and suffice to say that in our quest to realign Oxbow Road, which currently goes north of the hardware store, which is here, to going south of the hardware store, putting in a signalized intersection, making this continuous, and then adding the connectivity on the eastern side of 9, which will allow these left turn movements and some more mobility, what we found was that there was a property that was actually going to be affected by this effort. And the house is located right here. So what happened in the course of laying out this project and trying to avoid the property, what happened was, if you'll look here, this is a blow-up of the area. If you can see here, what this is showing you is that this is the current house with this property, and this is the current
Steve, if you'll tell us what the street address of that house is for the record.
27 Oxbow.
27 Oxbow Road. And it just by the kind of the coincidence of the way the house is sitting on the property, the way it's pushed so far north, we found ourselves having to impact this property. And what's more is that what happens is the road is going to be going up. The topography actually goes up from this point. So the Pickens family that lives there, and it's just through no fault of their own, but what they were going to have is the roadbed was going to be realigned such that the road was going to be elevated. In other words, their house was functionally going to be in a hole. And so we looked at whether we could move their house. We looked at options such as taking the house off the foundation and moving the house back and raising it up and doing lots of things to try to make sure that the Pickens were left whole, because we owe them that as a city. But then we started getting into structural issues with the home, the economics of trying to do this. And so to make a very long story short, I just want to let you know that we sort of moved heaven and earth to make sure that the Pickens family was not disaffected by this whole operation. And at the end of the day, we could not make this work. And so what we did was we went into a relocation process where we thought, okay, if we can't make the Pickens family whole on that location, what else can we do? We can maybe find another house for them to live in. And Clyde, who is quite the expert at this, really did a masterful job. I will tell you that we owe him a debt of gratitude for working out an arrangement where we could actually relocate the Pickens family to an area that would meet their needs. It would also meet the taxpayers of Roswell's needs as far as making sure that this was an equitable arrangement. And also we're looking for opportunities. The fact that this house won't really be in a habitable state at the end of this process, we're looking at some creative ways to use that property in the future Oxbow realignment process. So everything is coming together, and this is an effort for us to make this project work for this family. And I'm going to have Clyde run through the details of that now.
This is a great graphic because it shows that the house was impacted not only from the front, but the side, and is already impacted by the stormwater drainage on the back. And we were trying to do something with a park on one side, any kind of thing to kind of mitigate that, and to no avail. We found that we actually owned another piece of property that was of interest to the folks. As a result of the Grimes Bridge roundabout, we purchased the Smith House at the corner, and that it had a nice house on it. That's the way it was before. And after the roundabout was done, we took off quite a bit of this to orient this. See if I can do this. Norcross is here. The roundabout took a corner up piece off and a large part of that area, and we're retaining an easement on the property. The result of that is that the house value here and the house value at the Pickens house are almost virtually the same, which gives us the opportunity to exchange these properties, the Pickens home for the Grimes Bridge home, and the amount is the escrow, which is the the title company fees and the relocation cost for the Pickens. The funding amount is $4,572.23. For that purpose, $4,572.33 for that purpose.
So we'll exchange the property and with an additional $4,572 to pay for the cost of this change and relocation. We do an even trade, and the Pickens support this, and they're happy, and the city's happy.
Yes.
And we're moving on with another great transportation project. Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
I just ask Clyde to put that last picture up of the after at the roundabout area. In that yellow hatched area, the Smiths, prior to our acquisition of that property, had a lovely, lovely garden and a lot of native species and species that were brought in especially for that yard, which she had worked on for years. She was over 100 at the time of her death. And to salvage and save those plants that meant a lot to her before she passed, the efforts of the Roswell Women's Club, the Roswell Garden Club, and the Roswell Master Gardeners, just like to recognize them for their efforts in digging up the bulbs and relocating them to other areas around Roswell. It was an effort that may not have gone noticed at the time, but her plants are all around, and I think that we've also, by this exchange, made a very good result from a trying and challenging situation. So I want to thank you all for your work on that. And
thank you.
In so doing, may I make a motion that we approve signing the necessary documents for the exchange of these properties and to authorize the escrow of the funds in the amount of $4,572.23.
Motion by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. I want to compliment the Transportation Department not only for their creativity in this exchange, but also I want to compliment the Transportation Department for its partnership with the Women's Club and the Garden Club. There are not many transportation departments that can claim to be partners with garden clubs. That's usually not mentioned in the same phrase, partners with garden clubs and women's clubs. But our Transportation Department is not only context sensitive, but sensitive to the community and has a great partnership with all of the organizations in the city. Does anyone in the audience have questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I want to just I was about ready to say the same thing, that I think our transportation department is not just asphalt like some transportation departments are, and I think this just proves how above and beyond we go to make sure that our citizens are not that severely impacted with something that's going to improve our city. So kudos to you and to Clyde and to your transportation department. I think you did a fantastic job on this.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We have a recommendation for closure to discuss real estate. Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilman DiPolito. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Price. All in favor, raise your hands. Passes unanimously. I would like to invite everyone here to a meeting with the Roswell Business Alliance in room 220 to learn about all the great things our Roswell Business Alliance is accomplishing in the city of Roswell. Immediately following this meeting, room 220 across the rotunda.